Hey everybody, welcome back to AMA Friday with Amy Miller, Recruiting in Yoga Pants. That's me, and I am wearing yoga pants today because my kids did some laundry. We got that done. If you watched last week, you remember I was complaining about that. Okay, anyway, also speaking of laundry, this shirt was a lot funnier when I wasn't forced to stay home. Puts a different spin on it, but I do still love dogs and read a lot, so I guess it's still accurate. Okay, let's say the point. If you watched last week, you know that we talked about the master resume. So we kind of started with this premise of if I'm newly on the job market, newly trying to build out a resume, trying to figure out how to put myself into one single page, we talked about that. We talked about kind of setting the foundation for the resume. And so I actually added a poll. I keep kind of looking at the details here so I remember what we're talking about. We did a poll and we had two options. One was, how do recruiters look at resumes? And then also the second option was editing your master resume for a job. So one of the things that I had mentioned was taking that master and then taking a job description that you like, that you want to apply for, and how do I put those together? But y'all didn't pick that. You wanted to talk about how do recruiters look at resumes. So that is what we are going to discuss today. There is, God, there's a lot of discussion and debate about this anywhere on the internet that you may go. God bless you. So here's the thing. First of all, I've seen everything from 99% of resumes are never looked at by a human to recruiters only look at a resume for 6 seconds to everything in between. So there's a lot of, shall we say, mythology out there in regards to how a recruiter views a resume. Here's the deal. Here's what really happens, and I will tell you this as a recruiter who looks at online applications and resumes 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, sometimes every day, depending on my workload, depending on what I got going on. This is like heartburn inducing. Here's how I look at a resume. There are two ways that I am going to view a resume. One is through the lens of, I have a specific role. You have applied to that role, or I am sourcing for, trying to find somebody that fit that role or whatever. I'm looking at it through the lens of, I need someone that fits these basic qualifications. What is a basic qualification? I love my little handy dandy whiteboard, so I'm gonna use it again, and I'm gonna take some notes here, and hopefully you guys can see what I'm saying. And I'm a very visual person too. Like, I like to draw pictures and stuff, and it helps me understand things. So we'll do that. So what is a basic qualification? So we call those BQs. In the industry, in the biz, it's one of our words, BQs. And a BQ is a basic qualification. There's also something called PQs, which are, you guessed it, preferred qualifications. So I am going to be heavily focused on those BQs. I'm not opposed to PQs, preferred qualifications, but the BQs is where it's at, because the BQs is what the government tells me you have to have for me to move forward with your resume. If I work for a big company, if I'm dealing with something called OFCCP compliance, things like that. Basic qualifications is what the hiring team, the lawyers, the HR manager, whoever is involved in this, basic qualifications is what is basically my call to action. This is the charter that I have. I have to go find people who fit this. If you do not fit the basic qualification for a role, I cannot consider you for the role. How do I know if you fit that basic qualification? It's on your resume. I'm looking for that. So I've had some complaints that I talk too much about tech. It's what I know. So bear with me or watch a different video. I don't know what to tell you. So a basic qualification could be 3+ years software engineering experience. A basic qualification could be 1 year at least of, okay, so maybe our qualifications are, I need an engineer that has at least 3 years of experience as a software developer, because it's a kind of a mid-level role perhaps. And then I also need somebody that knows Java or a related language. So C# would also be fine, right? Because what I hear, they're similar. So the idea behind this is I'm now looking at your resume through this lens. If this is the role that I'm trying to fill, now full disclosure, I do not recruit software engineers in my current role. I'm doing something very, very different now. It is still tech, but it's very different. However, for the last several years, this is exactly what I was looking for. So I feel like I've got a decent handle on these. I need to see in your resume, I'm looking for proof that you have the number of years of experience, because we've kind of decided like people who are going to be successful here kind of have at least this much, and we have to make it measurable. It has to be measurable. Basic qualifications are very, very specific rules around how we can build those. They have to be measurable and they have to be objective. I can't say, this person's a great communicator. That doesn't matter. That's not a basic qualification, and that's really, really important for how I'm viewing your resume. So I'm looking for something that tells me you've got the years of experience that I need. That can be with 5 different companies. That can be some volunteer work. That could be some projects you did in school. I need to see that you have done this kind of work for at least this amount of time, if not longer. I also need to see that you have experience in a particular tool, technology, coding language, whatever. That, again, this is purely as an example, but I'm looking for those signals. So when people get all, jumbled up about keywords and resume parsing and matching and all that bullshit, I don't care about all of that. That's a video for another time, and I think I actually did talk about ATSs in a previous video, but the idea behind how am I looking at a resume, I'm looking at my basic qualifications for my role, and I'm looking to make sure that I can prove if someone audits me or has questions, I can say, this person was considered for the role because right here, we see the proof on the resume that they have this requirement and they have that requirement. That is how I'm looking at a resume. I'm starting with a job description. I'm looking for the things that I know are not negotiable, that have been decided by someone else. This is what we have to have. And then I go out and hunt for you and look for you or review your application and make sure you have these things. So that is one thing. I don't give a shit how you are formatting your resume. I don't care if you're using colors or scribbly lines or any of that shit. I cannot impress upon you how much I do not care. Resumes show up for me in my ATS as an attachment. I click a button and there's the resume, and I can see it and I can read it and I can figure out, do you meet those qualifications? What I do care about is just make it easy for me to see it. Make it easy for me to understand that, yeah, you do fit that role. You do look like a person who could be successful in this job. I do see a proven history here that shows me you meet the qualifications. We are at time, so I don't want to go any further than that. This took a little longer than I expected. But just know we're starting from a place of basic qualifications. I know I need to find someone that can do a certain thing, and I'm starting from that list. All right? Next week, if this is helpful for you, and if you want to do this again, we can talk about the more general resume review, where maybe I don't have a role in mind. Maybe I'm doing some pipelining. Maybe I'm just, reviewing people who've reached out to me, looking if there might be a fit somewhere. That's another way to look at resumes, so we could talk about that next week. But for this week, the focus was on, I'm applying to a job. My information is in your bloody ATS because I have to apply online. Amy said so 2 weeks ago or whenever. What is a recruiter looking for in that instance? That's what I'm looking for. Basic qualification fits. That is what gets you entry to the dance, AKA in the hiring manager's inbox with me standing behind him going, look at this resume, I need your feedback. Helpful? Maybe, hopefully. Drop me a comment, send me an email, amy@recruitingyogapants.com, and we will talk more about this next week. See ya.